Emily Wells pushed open the glass door of the hospital pharmacy and stepped outside. She felt a mix of relief that her shift was over and excitement about spending time with her family. But deep down, a small worry lingered. Tonight, David would be leaving for a 2-week business trip. As she sat in her car, Emily took a deep breath. After 10 years as a hospital pharmacist, she had learned to keep her composure at all times. A prescription mistake could sometimes be fatal. Her sense of responsibility and accuracy were things she took great pride in. As the head of the pharmacy team, she had earned the full trust of her colleagues. She could see her 2-story house in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in her mind. Emily parked her car and glanced in the rearview mirror. Her skin was nearly wrinkle-free, and her hair shone with a light chestnut brown hue. However, there were signs of exhaustion under her eyes. "Mama." As the front door opened, a small figure dashed out. Lilli's thin arms wrapped around Emily's waist. "Lilli, be careful. How many times have I told you not to run into the street?" Emily gently picked her daughter up and scolded her. Lilli's big blue eyes sparkled with curiosity and intelligence as always. Her 6-year-old daughter was particularly sensitive to changes in her environment. Sometimes, she could even sense Emily's mood before Emily had the chance to put it into words. Dad pulled out his suitcase. "Is he leaving again?" Lilli's voice carried a tone of disappointment. Emily brushed her daughter's soft hair, responding, "Yes, Daddy has important work to do, but when he gets back, he'll spend a lot of time with us." Emily wasn't sure if those words were true. David Wells, the regional sales director at a large pharmaceutical company, often traveled for business. David was passionate about his job, and that enthusiasm had helped him secure several promotions. Lately, though, he had been home less often, and when he was around, he seemed distant. When they entered the house, David was packing his last few items into his suitcase in the living room. His face showed fatigue and impatience. "Hey, welcome home." "I'm almost done," he said, glancing at his watch. "I need to catch the 7 p.m. flight." Emily tried to smile, but it came off a little forced. "What about dinner? Do you want something to eat before you go?" "No time. I'll grab something at the airport," David replied as he zipped up his suitcase. Lilli darted over to her father. "Dad, take this with you. It's a lucky charm." She held up a small stone, and on its surface, in childish handwriting, it read, "I love you, Dad." David's expression softened. He knelt down to Lilli's level and hugged her. "Thank you, Princess. I'll keep it with me." Emily felt a tug in her chest as she watched the scene. David was a loving father to Lilli, but lately, Emily had felt like their own relationship was growing colder. "David, about your flight." Emily began, but David's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and his expression changed. "I have to take this. It's the company." David hurried into another room and began speaking in a low voice. Emily tilted her head, confused, but she took Lilli by the hand and led her into the kitchen. "Come on, Lilli, let's get dinner ready. I'm making lasagna, Daddy's favorite, even though Daddy said he isn't eating." Lilli tilted her head. "Yeah, that's true. But we can eat it, and we can freeze some for when Daddy comes back." As Emily prepared the ingredients for the lasagna, Lilli began to draw with crayons. As Emily chopped the cheese, she thought about David. Recently, he had been leaving the room frequently to take phone calls. At first, she thought it was just confidential work-related matters, but now, she couldn't shake the thought that there might be something more going on. When David returned, he seemed cheerful. "Everything okay?" Emily asked. "Yeah, no bad news." David stammered a little. "Just a routine checkup. I really need to go now." "Okay," Emily replied softly. "Be careful. Let me know if anything happens." David nodded, kissed Lilli one more time, and rushed out the door. Once the door closed, there was a moment of silence in the house. "Mama, what's going on with Daddy?" Lilli looked up at Emily with her clear eyes. "He seems to be somewhere else lately." Emily was surprised by how observant her daughter was. "Maybe you're right. Daddy has a lot of work to do." "Does Daddy love you too?" That simple question left Emily speechless. Of course he does. Daddy loves our family. Lilli fell silent for a moment as if thinking, then nodded. Later that night, after she had tucked Lilli into bed, Emily pulled David's phone from the charging station in their bedroom. He had left it behind in his rush. The screen showed a new message from an unknown number. Emily held the phone for a moment, motionless in her hand. She knew the password. As a sign of trust, they had shared their passwords with each other, but she locked the screen and put the phone back. In her heart, she told herself it was just a work message. As she looked out the window, she saw stars shining in the autumn sky. Emily took a deep breath and lay down on the bed. The following days were filled with routine, but Emily couldn't shake the unease she felt. David's phone calls became more frequent, and he seemed more distant, as if his mind was always somewhere else. Emily tried to convince herself that it was just the pressure of his job, but deep down, she knew something wasn't right. One evening, after another long day at work, Emily was preparing dinner when she heard the sound of David's voice raised in frustration. She paused and listened for a moment. "Look, I don't have time for this right now," David's voice echoed from the other room. "I'm leaving in an hour." Emily furrowed her brow, confused. She wasn't sure if he was talking to someone from work or if there was something more going on. Her curiosity grew, but she didn't want to push him. Instead, she continued chopping vegetables, trying to focus on the task at hand. Later that evening, after David had left for his flight, Emily sat down in their quiet living room. Lilli was already in bed, and the house felt empty. As she picked up a book, Emily's thoughts wandered back to the strange conversation she had overheard. It wasn't just the phone calls that bothered her. Lately, there had been a strange tension in the air between her and David, like there was something unsaid, something he was keeping from her. A week later, her suspicions began to crystallize. Emily was at the grocery store when her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. She opened it, and her heart skipped a beat. It was a picture of David, taken from a distance, at a hotel with a woman by his side. The woman was smiling, her arm wrapped around David's waist. Emily's stomach turned as she stared at the photo. The message simply read, "I think you should know the truth." Emily's hands trembled as she looked around the store. She quickly turned off her phone and shoved it back into her purse. Her thoughts were racing. She wanted to confront David right away, but she didn't know what to say or how to approach it. She felt like she was falling into a trap, and every instinct pulled her to proceed with caution. That night, when David returned, Emily kept her distance. He was tired as usual, but there was something about him that felt different, more defensive, more closed off. As they sat down to eat, Emily couldn't look him in the eye. The photo was still burned in her mind. "David," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Who was the woman in that photo?" David froze for a moment, then looked up at her, his eyes filled with surprise and guilt. "What are you talking about?" Emily's hands clenched around her fork. "I got a message today. A picture of you with some woman." "Who is she?" David's expression changed immediately, and for the first time in a long while, Emily saw something like panic in his eyes. "Emily, it's not what you think," he stammered. It's complicated." Emily stood up, feeling the weight of the moment. "I'm done with the lies, David. Who is she?" David hesitated, then sighed deeply. "Her name is Carol. I've been seeing her for a few months now." The words hit Emily like a slap. She could barely breathe as her mind spun. "So, you've been cheating on me? On us?" David looked away, unable to meet her gaze. "It wasn't like that. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." Emily stood there in silence, the weight of his confession crushing her. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, anger, disbelief, betrayal, but above all, she felt a deep, aching sadness. "You need to leave," she finally said, her voice steady, but filled with a sorrow that David would never understand. "Emily, just leave, David. We're done." As David gathered his things, Emily felt a strange sense of relief mixed with grief. She couldn't believe how quickly everything had unraveled. She had trusted him, loved him, and he had shattered that trust in the worst way possible. The next day, after David had left, Emily sat down with Lilli and explained what had happened. Lilli didn't fully understand, but she could sense her mother's sadness. "Will Daddy come back?" Lilli asked softly. "No, honey. Daddy's not coming back." Lily's big blue eyes filled with concern.
Why?
"Because sometimes people make mistakes and we have to move on." Lilli didn't say anything else, but she hugged her mother tightly. As Emily held her daughter, she felt a mix of determination and fear. She didn't know what the future would bring, but she knew one thing for sure. She was going to protect Lilli, no matter what. Emily's suspicions about David's affair led her to confront the truth, but the story doesn't end there. As she pieces together the pieces of her shattered trust, more dangerous revelations begin to surface, leading her into a confrontation with someone even more dangerous than she could have imagined. The days after David's departure were filled with a strange mix of emotions. Emily was heartbroken but resolute. She had made the decision to protect Lilli and move on from the lies, but there was still one more thing lingering in the back of her mind: Carol. Who was she, and why had she felt the need to send Emily that photo? Emily couldn't stop thinking about the woman who had come between her and David. The more she thought about it, the more questions she had. Carol wasn't just some random woman. She had been in their lives for months, and she had known about Emily and Lilli. How had she wormed her way into their world without Emily even noticing? As the weeks went by, Emily started to look into Carol's background. She scoured social media and even contacted a few of David's colleagues who had worked with Carol. The pieces slowly began to fit together. Carol was an employee at one of the companies David frequently dealt with in his sales position. But it wasn't just business. There had been more. Carol had been in the picture long before Emily had ever realized it. One afternoon, Emily was sitting at the kitchen table when she received an unexpected call. It was from a private investigator she had hired in secret. "Ms. Wells, I've found something you need to know." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" "The woman, Carol Daniels. She's been following you. I have evidence of her at your house several times over the past few months, taking pictures of you and your daughter." Emily felt a cold shiver run down her spine.
What?
"Are you sure?" "I'm certain. I'll send you the files," the investigator said. Emily hung up, her mind racing. She opened the files the investigator had emailed her. There were photos of Carol standing in her yard, peeking through the bushes, and even shots of the front door. It was like Carol had been watching them the entire time, planning something sinister. The realization hit Emily hard. Carol wasn't just a mistress. She was a stalker. And now, her obsession with Emily and David had escalated to something dangerous. Emily needed to act fast. She couldn't let her daughter be in danger. That evening, after putting Lilli to bed, Emily sat alone in the living room. The house felt cold, as though it was harboring secrets she had yet to uncover. She stared at her phone, contemplating whether to call David. He had been distant and defensive, but this was bigger than him now. Finally, she dialed his number. "Emily?" David's voice sounded strained. "I need you to know what's been going on, David," Emily said, her voice steady but firm. "I hired a private investigator, and I found out Carol has been spying on us. She's been in our yard, taking pictures." There was a long pause before David replied. "What do you mean? Why would she do that?" "Why don't you ask her?" Emily snapped. "This isn't just about you and her anymore. This is about me and Lilli. She's stalking us, David." There was a heavy silence on the other end of the line. "Emily, I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know she was doing that." Emily closed her eyes, the weight of his words falling on her like a ton of bricks. "I'm not interested in your excuses anymore, David. I've had enough. I'm coming home. I'll fix this. Please just wait." "No," Emily said, her voice firm and resolute. "This has gone too far. I'm handling this on my own now." After hanging up, Emily sat in silence, feeling both empowered and terrified. She knew she had to protect Lilli, no matter the cost. But Carol's obsession was far from over. Emily could feel it in her gut. The danger was closing in. The next few days were a blur. Emily filed a police report, hoping that they would take the stalking seriously. But what really shook her was when the police called her back. "Ms. Wells, we've found something else. Carol Daniels has a criminal history. She was involved in a stalking case a few years ago, but it was dismissed due to lack of evidence." Emily's heart pounded. What does that mean? It means she's been following this pattern for a while. And based on her history, we believe she may escalate her behavior. The words echoed in Emily's mind. Escalate. What more could Carol do? Emily knew the answer. She was going to come after them, after her family. With the truth about Carol's obsession out in the open, Emily realizes the situation has gone beyond the point of no return. As her fear deepens, she makes plans to ensure her and Lilli's safety, but not without facing even more threats from an unexpected source. The battle for their lives is just beginning. Emily's mind raced as she hung up the phone. The police had given her the information she needed about Carol's past, and now the situation was much more serious than she had imagined. Carol wasn't just some obsessed woman. She had a criminal record for stalking, and now she had escalated to targeting Emily and Lilli. Emily knew it was time to take action, but she couldn't shake the feeling of danger looming over her and her daughter. The next few days were a blur of planning and preparation. Emily took every precaution. She installed security cameras around the house, changed the locks, and even considered hiring a security guard. But what terrified her most was the thought that Carol could still be watching them, just waiting for the right moment to strike. One night, as Emily sat in the kitchen, reviewing safety measures with a local security expert, Lilli ran into the room, her face pale. "Mama, I saw her again," Lilli whispered, clutching the edge of the counter. Emily froze. She had been expecting this moment, but hearing it from Lilli made the fear so much more real. "What do you mean, honey?" Emily asked, kneeling down to her daughter's level, her heart pounding in her chest. "I saw a lady outside the window. She was looking at me," Lilli said, her voice trembling. She had long, blonde hair, just like the one in the picture. Emily's stomach turned. That was it. Carol had come back. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" Emily asked, her voice trying to remain calm. Lilli nodded, her big blue eyes wide with fear. She looked at me and smiled like she was waiting for something. Emily took Lilli's hand, trying to stay composed. She couldn't let her daughter see how terrified she truly was. "Okay, honey, let's go upstairs. We're going to be safe, I promise." But as they headed up to Lilli's room, Emily's mind was spinning. The sense of urgency had shifted from suspicion to full-blown terror. Carol was here, and Emily wasn't prepared for what might come next. As the night wore on, Emily kept checking the security cameras every few minutes. The house was quiet, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She made sure all the windows were locked and the doors were secure. But despite all her precautions, she knew that Carol was still out there, and she had no idea what she would do next. Around midnight, Emily heard a sound from downstairs, soft but unmistakable, a creak of the floorboards. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She grabbed her phone and quickly dialed the police, her hands shaking. "They're in the house," she whispered urgently into the phone. "Please hurry." The operator assured her help was on the way, but the seconds felt like hours as she waited, holding her breath. She could hear footsteps now, slow and deliberate, moving through the house. Carol was inside. Emily's worst nightmare was unfolding before her eyes. "Stay with me, Lilli," Emily whispered, her voice barely a breath. She gently pushed her daughter back against the bed and crouched next to her. "We're going to be okay. Just stay quiet and stay still." The footsteps grew louder, closer. Emily's pulse raced. She could feel the adrenaline pumping through her veins, and her instincts kicked in. She had to protect Lilli, no matter what. Suddenly, the door to Lilli's room creaked open. Emily's breath caught in her throat. There, standing in the doorway, was Carol. Her face was twisted into a maniacal grin, her blonde hair falling around her shoulders like a veil. She looked different now, her eyes wild, her expression unreadable. "I've been waiting for this moment, Emily," Carol said softly, almost lovingly. "You took him away from me. You took everything from me. And now I'm going to take what's mine. Emily stood up slowly, her heart pounding in her ears. She had no time to think. Every part of her screamed to run, but she couldn't leave Lilli. Not now. Get away from my daughter, Emily said, her voice shaking but firm. She took a step forward, instinctively trying to shield Lilli behind her. Carol's grin widened. You can't protect her forever, Emily. No one can protect you from me. Just as Carol took another step forward, Emily heard the sound of sirens in the distance. It was faint at first, but it grew louder, closer. Carol's expression faltered, and she turned her head slightly, listening. This isn't over, Carol spat, her eyes flashing with fury. You think you can stop me? I'll be back. Before Emily could react, Carol turned and fled from the room, disappearing into the night. Emily rushed to the window and saw Carol running into the woods behind their house, vanishing into the darkness. The police arrived moments later, rushing through the door. They took Emily's statement and began to search the area, but Carol was already gone. Emily sat down on the bed, trembling, as the reality of what had just happened sank in. She had come face to face with the woman who had terrorized her family, and somehow, they had survived. But Emily knew this wasn't the end. Carol would be back, and she would do whatever it took to get what she wanted. With Carol still at large, Emily's sense of safety is shattered. She realizes that the battle isn't over, and she must prepare for the worst. As she gathers her strength to face the ongoing threat, the truth about Carol's dangerous obsession begins to unravel even further. Emily's fight for her family's survival is far from over. Emily couldn't sleep. The hours dragged on as she lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling. The police had left hours ago, but she couldn't shake the image of Carol's crazed face in the doorway. Even though Carol had run off into the night, Emily knew that wasn't the end. It felt like the beginning of something far darker. The next day, Emily took Lilli to school with a newfound sense of urgency. She drove through the familiar streets with her heart pounding, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on her. She didn't want to show fear to Lilli, but it was becoming harder to hide it. Every corner she turned, every unfamiliar face she saw, felt like a potential threat. Carol could be anywhere, watching them, waiting. As Emily dropped Lilli off at school, she noticed something strange. A black sedan was parked across the street, its engine running. She couldn't make out the driver's face, but something about the car felt off. It was the same one she had seen the night Carol had tried to break into their house. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She quickly turned her head away and made her way back to the car, her pulse racing. As she pulled out of the parking lot, she glanced in her rearview mirror. The sedan followed. Her heart skipped a beat. It was Carol, or someone working for her. Emily's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She couldn't go back home, not now. Not with Lilli at school and the threat following them. She made a sharp turn, driving aimlessly through the streets. Every corner she took, the black sedan was there, staying a few car lengths behind her. Her mind raced as she tried to think of her options. She couldn't outrun them. Her only chance was to outsmart them. Emily pulled into a small cafe parking lot, hoping that the driver would think she was just stopping for coffee. She quickly ducked down in the car and waited. The sedan passed by, but it didn't stop. The driver was no fool. He knew she had noticed him. Emily's heart was still pounding when she pulled back onto the road. She had to get home. She had to protect Lilli. But deep down, she knew that her life, and Lilli's, would never be the same again. Carol's obsession was far from over. That afternoon, as Emily was preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. She jumped, startled, her nerves already frayed. She glanced at the clock. It was too early for anyone to be visiting. She cautiously approached the door, peering through the peephole. A familiar face appeared in her view, David. Emily's heart sank. She hadn't spoken to him since the confrontation the night before. She didn't want to see him now, not when everything felt so chaotic. Still, she opened the door, reluctantly. "Emily, I had to come back," David said, his voice quiet. He looked tired, worn out. "I didn't want to leave things the way we left them." I'm sorry for everything, for what I did. But Carol, Emily raised a hand to stop him. I don't want to hear it, David. Not now. Carol is still out there, and I don't know how much longer we have until she does something worse. David's face darkened. I know. That's why I came back. I've talked to the police, and they've agreed to help us. I want to protect you and Lilli. I know I messed up, but I'm trying to make it right. Emily took a deep breath, trying to push her anger aside. She didn't want to get into the mess of their past right now. She just needed to focus on what was important, keeping Lilli safe. I don't want you here, David, she said, her voice steady but firm. I'm handling this on my own now. You need to stay out of it. David looked as though he had been struck. But Emily, no, you don't get to be part of this anymore. Emily cut him off. I'm not going to let you put us in danger again. With that, Emily stepped back, closing the door firmly in his face. She leaned against it, breathing heavily. The weight of everything was starting to crush her. David's betrayal, Carol's madness, the constant fear. It was all too much. But one thing was clear to Emily. She couldn't rely on David. She couldn't trust anyone but herself. And if she wanted to protect Lilli, she had to stay strong. Emily's resolve is put to the test as Carol's obsession escalates, and the stakes become higher than ever. With David out of the picture and the police on high alert, Emily makes a bold move to confront the danger head-on. The fight for her family's survival is about to reach its most intense point.